2,000 years ago, on the Jewish day of Pentecost, something miraculous happened. The promised Holy Spirit was poured out on those first believers, and it led to 3,000 people being baptized as they put their faith in Jesus. At our church, we tend to baptize people in a rustic horse trough. But don't be fooled. What happens there is just as miraculous. I want to read from Acts chapter 2, and it describes when the Holy Spirit came and filled those who had gathered to pray in the upper room. And it was obvious that something had happened to them, because it drew a crowd who started asking questions. And so Peter stood up and he explained. He told them how in times past God had promised a new age of his Spirit, and that age had now begun because Jesus had been raised from the dead. He said this: God has raised this Jesus to life, and we are all witnesses of it. Exalted to the right hand of God, he has received from the Father the promised Holy Spirit, and has poured out what you now see and hear. Therefore, let all Israel be assured of this: God has made this Jesus whom you crucified both Lord and Messiah. Well, when the people heard this, they were cut to the heart and said to Peter and the other apostles, "Brothers, what shall we do?" Peter replied, "Repent and be baptized, every one of you, in the name of Jesus Christ for the forgiveness of your sins, and you will receive the gift of the Holy Spirit. The promise is for you and your children and for all who are far off, for all whom the Lord our God will call," which includes all of us who have come to believe. And with many other words he warned them, and he pleaded with them, "Save yourselves from this corrupt generation." And those who accepted his message were baptized, and about 3,000 were added to their number that day. And every time we baptize someone, they're added to that number too. Have you been added yet? Note that it was those who accepted his message, those who were turning to Jesus, who were baptized, which is why we don't baptize infants, because they need to be old enough to know what they're doing. And I know there are many people who were baptized in good faith by their parents when they were infants, as I myself was. But we would still encourage them to be baptized as a believer, as a matter of their own faith. Now, what does baptism mean? There's two things I want to highlight. First, it's for the forgiveness of sins, as Peter said. Second, it's the beginning of a new life. So first, forgiveness of sins. Peter was preaching to people who didn't realize they'd done anything wrong. Maybe you don't either. But Peter said to them, "You crucified the Messiah, who God has now raised to life to be Lord of all. So repent," which means change your mind, agree with what God says, and show it by being baptized so your sins can be forgiven. Now you might say, well, what's that got to do with us? Actually, quite a bit. Did you realize that we all crucified Jesus too? How so? When he was hanging on the cross, the people all mocked him. They said, "If you're the Son of God, why don't you come down and save yourself?" And of course, as the Son of God, he could have saved himself. But it wasn't the nails that kept him on the cross. What was it? It was our sin that held him there. And it was his love for you and me, because he deliberately went to the cross to pay the penalty for the sins of mankind. As the Bible says, all have sinned and gone astray. So Jesus refused to save himself so that he could save others, so that he could save you and me. It was his life for ours. And when we recognize that and we agree with God that we need forgiving, then we show it by being baptized. There was only one man who ever lived who didn't need to be baptized, and that was Jesus. Which is why John the Baptist was shocked when Jesus came to him for baptism, because Jesus didn't need to have his sins washed away. He was the only perfect person who ever lived. He hadn't done anything wrong. So why did Jesus want to be baptized? Well, because he was identifying himself with us, with sinful mankind. His baptism was anticipating the cross, where he carried the sins of the whole human race. He didn't have to be baptized, just like he didn't have to die, but he chose to because of his love for you and me. Jesus publicly identified himself with us, and now he calls anyone who wants their sins forgiven to publicly identify with him and to follow him through the waters of baptism. It's like going into the water wearing filthy rags and exchanging them for Christ's righteousness, coming out clothed in white. But it goes much deeper than a change of clothes, because what we're talking about is the beginning of a new life. That just as Jesus was raised from the dead, so are we through baptism. Listen to what Paul wrote in Romans 6. Do you not know that all of us who have been baptized into Christ Jesus were baptized into his death? We were buried therefore with him by baptism into death, in order that, just as Christ was raised from the dead by the glory of the Father, we too might walk in newness of life. When we are baptized, we're not just identifying with Jesus, it's like we become one with him in his death, burial, and resurrection. We are baptized into his death. Jesus said, whoever wants to be his disciple must take up their cross and follow him. And in those days, if you saw someone carrying a cross, it meant only one thing: death. They were going to die. And if you want to follow Jesus, it means you have to die. The old person, the old you, your old identity, it all has to be put to death. It's what conversion means. It's not turning over a new leaf, it's getting a new life. But in order to get a new life, the old one has to die. You can't resurrect something that's not already dead. That's why becoming a Christian is not about giving up things like smoking or drinking or swearing. No, it's about giving up your life. It means losing your life. Jesus said you have to lose your life in order to find it, because it's found in him. Eternal life is found in relationship with Jesus. It's in Christ that we find the truest version of ourselves, the people God created us to be. It's in union with him that we find our true meaning and purpose, our true identity. But if we're to be united with him in this new life, we first have to be united with him in his death. And that means surrendering our whole lives to him. And that's why we fully immerse people in water. It's what the word baptism means, to immerse. But every part of us has to be immersed in Christ, baptized in him. And so the water becomes our grave. As Paul said, we're buried with him by baptism into death. Just as Jesus was buried in a grave, so we are buried with him through baptism, which is why baptism is really a funeral service. We are saying goodbye to the old person. But that's not the end of them, because as Paul said, it's so that, just as Christ was raised from the dead, we too might walk in newness of life. We receive a new life in Christ, an eternal life like Christ's, because it's a life that we share with him through the Holy Spirit. It's why Peter said, repent and be baptized, every one of you, for the forgiveness of your sins, and you will receive the gift of the Holy Spirit. He comes to live in us. He's the one who fills us and gives us the power to live this new life. So when we baptize people in our church, when they come up out of the water, we pray for the Holy Spirit to fill them and empower them to live for Christ in this world. It means that we can say, as the Apostle Paul did, I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. And the life I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. That's why being a Christian doesn't mean adding Jesus to your life. It doesn't mean you've got Jesus. It means Jesus has got you. You are his. You belong to him now. He's not just in your life, he is your life. You no longer live. Christ lives in you now through the power of the Holy Spirit. So when people get baptized and they come up out of the water, we all cheer and clap because we're celebrating a miracle. Outwardly, it will look like we just immersed them in a horse trough and they got wet. But for those with eyes to see, a miracle has taken place. Outwardly, people just saw a baby placed in a manger, just a poor Jewish baby lying in an animal feeding trough. But for those with eyes to see, the Saviour of the world had been miraculously born. And all who bow the knee to him and surrender their lives to him, as evidenced by baptism, they get to share in that miracle. Maybe there's someone listening who wants this new life that Jesus offers us. You want to know that your sins are forgiven and that you have eternal life with him. Well, can I urge you, as Peter did, to repent and be baptized as you put your trust in Jesus, in his death and resurrection? Why not speak to someone about it today? God bless you.